got a chance to see Deadpool and Wolverine in a packed theater. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I am your host, Frank Zanka. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer. And as well as a filmmaker as well. So I do look at things from the filmmaking perspective. Again, thank you so much for joining me here. We are going to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. It was in a packed theater. But before we start, remember to give me that like, give me that thumbs up if you can. If you can, also subscribe. I am trying to grow the channel out. And if you'd like to read anything that I've written in the past, you could also check into the description below for my Amazon link. I do write sci-fi and fantasy, both in novels and in graphic novel format. And I'm also releasing a card game called Classic Monsters with Mark Spears, who does cover art for Marvel and DC. And we're all going to be launching this right after Gen Con. If you are joining to Gen Con, please hit me up so that I can show you the game. But we are going to be launching on Kickstarter at the beginning of August. Again, in the description below, you can find the link to sign up for when we launch on August 5th. So it's right around the corner. We have about 200 and something followers right now, and I'm hoping to get it to at least 300 before we launch. All right, so let's jump into Deadpool and Wolverine. So this is obviously a highly anticipated film starring Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. Seeing them on the screen really for the first time together, playing iconic roles that they have both created, really. Yes, we are taking this from the comic books, but they are doing some really comic book accurate stuff. They look comic book accurate in the movie itself, along with some of the cameos. I am not going to go into spoilers, but I am going to talk about the general plot line. So this is directed by Shawn Levy. Shawn Levy is a very accomplished director and producer. And I was very impressed when I went and looked at some of his credits. So he produced Free Guy. So he has a relationship with both actors over the course of their career in different formats. So he did Free Guy. I think he also directed Free Guy. The Adam Project, which the other writers were also involved with. Arrival, I'm not really a fan of Arrival. Shadow and Bone he produced. He also produced 34 episodes, which I think is almost all of them, of Stranger Things. He also directed some of them. So it's pretty impressive. And I think that he also directed Real Steel, which is where he would have, yes, he did. He directed Real Steel and Date Night, but Real Steel also had Hugh Jackman in it. So he has both sides he's dealt with before. I mean, he directed, way back when in 2002, he directed one of the episodes of Birds of Prey. Wow. We're going way back machine there. He's got major credits reaching all the way back to the early 90s. So he's been doing this for a long time. He knows what he's doing. He also produced Boogeyman. Again, he's across the board. He's just done some major things that have, I guess, prepared him for this. I don't know if there is any preparing for doing a Deadpool movie, especially of this type. There's just tons of effects. There's so much limb choppings and gore, etc. And people say, well, I'm surprised that they were able to hit Disney like this. And remember, too, that everybody talks about Feige. Feige is a figurehead. The guy gets led around by his nose by all of the various creators that are there. he doesn't really make any decisions. So when Iron Man first came out, they really had no plan. They stuck the Adventures initiative in there at the post credits with with Nick Fury, but they didn't really have a plan. Joss Whedon was the one that came in and gave the plan for the lead up of the Avengers with the Infinity Stones. That came from him. And then, of course, you have the other directors that came in, like the Russo brothers and things to that effect. Feige did absolutely nothing creative because at the same time, remember that Jessica Chow came in there and whooped his ass and said, this is how we're going to do things. And look at the piece of shit that was She-Hulk. So that's why you see all these different tones and effects that Marvel does, because Feige has no vision of his own. The visions come from the creative. So whatever creative he's listening to at that moment in time, that's what Marvel is. Now, as far as the humor and everything else that has to go on with Deadpool, that is coming from Ryan Reynolds and his team. And he had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. That's the deal he made. So, yeah, of course, he's open to doing hitting at Marvel. He hits at everything. So, and there's no holding anything back because he doesn't care. And after he makes the amount of money that this film is going to make, I wouldn't be surprised if they do another Deadpool and Wolverine movie, even though I don't think that Hugh Jackman is going to be a part of X-Men. I think they're going to hire somebody new to be Wolverine in the general X-Men films, which is fine because this is a multiverse thing, even though we see tons of Wolverines throughout, all of this film. Going back to the writers, we had Rhett Reese, who wrote the original Deadpool, Deadpool 2, which I really didn't like, but Zombieland, he did Ghosted, which I heard was just horrible, but he worked with Chris Evans there. Twisted Metal, which I did like. So he's a pile of things. He did G.I. Joe Retaliation, which again was not good. So he's a hit and miss type of thing. But I think all these guys had worked on the Atom Project. So I think that was a project that all of them worked together on. Ryan Reynolds is also credited as a writer here. And Paul Wernick is another one. Again, I know that he did the Atom Project. But also Zeb Wells' name was also credited here, which I was kind of worried about because right now he is writing the worst Spider-Man run of all of Marvel's run of Spider-Man. He's done the worst. I was pretty shocked that he was on there. He also was one of the writers on She-Hulk. And when I saw him on there, I'm like, oh my God, we have one of the worst writers for Spider-Man ever in existence. And he did She-Hulk. This is going to be, crap. So luckily, I don't think he had a whole lot of input here. But yeah, so all of these writers that I mentioned, Paul Wernick, Rhett Reese, those guys have huge amounts of credits, and so does Sean Levy, even though they're kind of a hit and miss. But I thought that the film in general did a lot of good things. It was humorous. It was entertaining. Did it have a great story? No. No. In fact, the storyline is going to be extremely forgettable. The only thing you're really going to remember is some of the fight scenes in here for the most part. And the fight scenes, of course, that are using as cameos because we have these characters that are joining in the battles that are cameos. And it was good to see a lot of these Fox characters back. I do want to point out that we do not see Storm. And everybody knows that Storm is my favorite X-Men character. And we do not see her. I was really hoping we could see her in some reiteration because of the fact that all of these characters were in costumes that were comic accurate. And we still to this day have not had a comic accurate Storm. And I really was hoping that would come in, and it didn't. So I don't get your hopes up that we're going to see Storm, because you don't. So the newest addition to this is Emma Corrin, and Emma Corrin is playing the villain. I'm not going to say anything more than that. She's playing the villain. She played young Diana on The Crown before Elizabeth Debicki ended up playing the later version of it. Matthew McFadden, which is funny because they call this thing the world or time thing Ripper, and of course he's also from Ripper Street. So I don't know. Daphne Keane, I'm sure you're well aware that she was going to pop up, especially when we compare her to what she does here to what she does in The Acolyte. It's miles apart. I'm not going to mention the other, people that are going to be popping in here from Fox, but I'm sure you're, well aware of what's going on, especially what's happening. And, they announced it in Hall H from Comic-Con and all that stuff already. So it's not really a secret. Marina Baccarin returns as Vanessa, but she's in very little of the film. She's basically in a couple of scenes, and that's it. So, yeah, a lot of really good stuff here. It's definitely entertaining. It's good to see in a theater. The whole beginning credit scene with the fight scene, we're using... He says, "I will not use my weapons to kill you guys." And he doesn't. He ends up using something else as weapons. And I wasn't expecting that to be the case or what to use. So, again, I'm not going to say what that is, but it was extremely funny and entertaining. Again, we see Wolverines from all over the comicscape. So all the different Wolverines that have been in comics are here. So if you ever want to know, what's that Wolverine from, or what's that Wolverine from, all you have to do is look in, the comics thing, and that's what it's from. So pretty exciting that they did pull from the comics, and again, it's all comic accurate. And this is the first time that we are going to see Wolverine with the headpiece on, and I was pretty excited about that. I kind of wish that he had taken it off after a little while. But yeah, and of course we see Deadpool's from across all the different things as well. And we do see Lady Deadpool. I knew that Blake Lively was on set, but I didn't know what she was playing. But she plays Lady Deadpool, and boy, does she look hot. We don't get to see her face, but the body of it is amazing. And again, we see a lot of the X-Men and stuff to that effect, or especially the villains from the Fox era. Also, in the back, which you can see in some of even in the photos that are online, when they're in front of a shop, and it says Liefeld Just Feet. And a lot of people aren't going to pick up for what that is. But Rob Liefeld is the creator of Deadpool. Of course, he did his own version of Deathstroke. That's what Deadpool is. And of course, he did the fourth wall break and all this stuff. But a lot of that was created by other writers later on. But the whole joke is that Rob Liefeld can't draw feet. So seeing the shop called Liefeld Just Feet was very funny. But again, if you're not a comic fan, you would not be picking up on this. But the general plot line is that Deadpool is trying to have a normal life. It's not really working out for him, but that's what he's trying to do. And he realizes that all the people that he loves are what's keeping him afloat in an emotional level and everything like that. That he relies on his friends that he calls family, and even Colossus is there from the first movie. I think he was in the second movie too. But yes, he definitely was. Yes. So Colossus, in fact, he looks better, I think, in the second movie. But anyway, so he finds out he gets kidnapped by the TVA, and the TVA tells him that, look, I'm going to put you in another timeline because your world, your timeline is going to be deleted. I'm going to delete the thing. So, there was I'm going to say vergence or convergence, or there was a problem with somebody died in his timeline that affected the entire timeline and is hence destroying it. And they were going to move him into another one, but he doesn't want that to happen, so he's going to go and do anything that he can to save his timeline. That's the basic storyline. And the storyline is this big. It's not about that. It's about the journey that he takes and becomes worthy or unworthy of the things that he wants in the world. So, he wants to matter, basically. That's it. He wants to be a hero, but can he really be the hero from all the things that he continuously does and all the murders he does, etc.? I mean, he's just a violent guy. So it's very interesting. And then we have 2 post-credit sequences. The first one really isn't a post-credit sequence. It is a amalgam of shots taken from all the Fox superhero films, which I thought was very interesting. We get to see behind-the-scenes stuff of when Hugh Jackman was first hired and was first on set and things to that effect. And it was very cool to see all that. But yeah, again, we bring a lot of the characters back from the Fox series, or the different Fox series, not so much an X-Men, but different Fox series. But yeah, it was a fun time at the theater. You're going to laugh. You're going to have a good time. That's what you're there for. It's not really that memorable. It is rewatchable because you're going to look for little Easter eggs, and I think all the actors just have fun on the screen, and you can get that from the screen. I mean, the emotion of the actors comes through the screen, and that's what makes everybody have a really great time. And I wouldn't say it has twists and turns, but it's at the fact that the story is so small, you have no idea where it's going to go because there's nothing that's really telegraphing where the movie's going. So it was very interesting in all that, but again, it's not really going to win any awards. But it is a fun time at the movies, and I suggest going to see it. All right, and if I'm going to rate this from a scale to 1 to 10, I am going to probably give it a 7.5. It's far above average, but not a perfect film by any sense of the imagination. The music is very, very evoking because they bring in, a lot of 80s music and things to that effect. So you're listening to the music, you're hearing all the action, you're hearing the quips, and at the same time, you don't think that Deadpool is learning anything as he goes, but he really is. And that was the interesting part, to the point where the team up actually becomes a little bit more heartfelt. So I wish we would have been able to see more of what the driving force of Wolverine is through the thing, but we only get to hear his version. We don't really get to see it. So I thought that was a little bit disheartening, but I guess they really didn't want to, break the budget. I think it was already a $200 million movie. The first movie was $58 million. So yeah. So they've kind of doubled. I think the 58, then the second one was 100, and I think that this one was 2, so they keep doubling. But there's no doubt that this movie is going to make $1 billion. I think it made $200 million the first day of release. I think that they're estimating $300 to $350 million for this weekend. So the chance of it hitting $1 billion is pretty good. They need to get about 500 to 600 million to break even. At 200, you're probably looking more around 500, and that's not going to be a problem. So that's why I think they're going to make a second one, and it'll just be kind of on its own. I don't think it'll fall into the rest of the Marvel Universe, and that's also why I don't know what's going to happen with Thunderbolts. I think that this is not going to give us any more hope for the rest of the Marvel Universe, because we know this doesn't fall into the Marvel Universe. Everybody's well aware of that. And we know that Falcon America is coming out next and nobody cares. Nobody cares about that movie. And then we have Thunderbolts. That has a little bit more care in it too, because we get to see some of the characters that we like White Widow, I guess you're going to call her, and Red Hulk and things to that effect. I think that has a little bit more gravitas to it, but Falcon America is going to crash and burn. And then everybody's going to throw their hands up again saying, yep, Marvel Universe is still dead. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Marvel. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Check out the link below for Mythlord's Classic Monsters, which is going to be launching on August 5th, where you can play as your favorite classic monster. I am doing miniatures with this one as well. There'll be printable miniatures that'll be free for any pledge. Again, sign up link is in the description, as well as my Amazon link if you'd like to read anything that I've written. Remember to give me that like, give me that thumbs up. And also, if you can't subscribe, please do ring that bell, ding ding, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Check out some of my other videos as well, and you guys have an awesome week. And let me know what you guys thought of Deadpool and Wolverine, because I'm sure everybody's gonna see it. So definitely give me your opinions and what you thought of the cameos. And I'd like to do a little video on the cameos as well, and the costumes. Maybe I'll do that a little later on after everybody watches it. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.